Bruno G to Arsenal. Here we go. And finally, at last, the words we've been waiting for probably over a month now, roughly a month, since that David Ornstein initial bomba. And, Fabrizio Bomba, Hand of Arsenal Bomba, and David Ornstein Bomba all came today talking about this Bruno G deal. And finally, thankfully, thank God, because first of all, this is a pivotal signing, regardless if any other deals happen, which is kind of why I waited to delay this video, honestly. Um, Regardless if any other deals happen, he is a pivotal player for us and definitely pushes us closer to retaining that title, pushes us closer to winning that Champions League for the first time, and pushes us closer to building a dynasty. I mean, look, he's 28 years old, and so I think there's different ways to slice and dice this deal. Firstly, the player. Elite player. We saw it for Brazil, probably one of Brazil's standout players in the World Cup this tournament. And we've seen it for Newcastle. Season over season, he's been probably their best player, if not one of their best players. No, one of their best players, if not their best player. And so this guy is an elite player. Is he world class? We'll see. He needs to step up and play for a big club and see how he does under pressure and those type of things. But he definitely has the ability, just the ability alone, to be in that top tier of midfielders. And so when you look at his strengths compared to Rice's, Rice being an athlete, a space eater, someone who can impact the final third, but is also amazing with defensive actions and probably prioritizes those defensive actions over anything. And, you could bet your house on him making a successful tackle, making a successful recover. When you put that next to a Bruno G who, has on the ball cojones, honestly. Yes, he has somewhat of an engine, and his engine isn't too bad. His engine is usable. I think the main thing with him is you see him on the ball, his quality on the ball, his ability to pick up the ball wherever and progress the ball, whatever way it is, whether that's skipping past a player, whether that's, jinking past a player, whether that's just first time playing a progressive ball, whether that's a long ball, whether that's, just a diagonal cutting through the lines. He can do it all. And when it comes to on the ball, honestly. So this is, when you look at Declan Rice's weaknesses, probably his greatest weakness is that progression on the ball, which he can do, but in, more vertically and more long diagonals than straight play through the midfield. Bruno Guimaraes is perfect, super complementary to that position and that player. And also it gives us fortitude because last season we had Rice and we had Zubimendi, who played most of our minutes until the end of the season, where Arteta was forced to use Lewis Skelly. Now we have Lewis Skelly as an added option, but on top of that, we have a 28-year-old player turning 29 that is certified in this league. I mean, you look at it, this guy's had 56 GA in 153 games in the Prem. And that's 13,000 minutes. So for a midfielder, 56 GA and 13,000 minutes as a deeper midfielder is solid. He's giving you 10 GA every season, give or take. And at a team like Arsenal, that probably goes up. So look, I think everything points to this is a great player for us. It makes sense. In totality, it all makes sense in terms of what the player brings to us. Complements Declan Rice, gives us more rotation, is an older age that lets Lewis Skelly kind of bed in a little bit more rather than putting the pressure on him immediately. I think all in all, he makes sense for the club. I think then you get onto the fee. And look, if you compare him to some of the other midfielders that have gone in this window, that have gone in previous windows, and if you look at just the list of most expensive midfielders in the world, right, you're looking at Enzo, you're looking at Elliot Anderson, you're looking at Paul Pogba, Declan Rice, Matheus Fernandes, De Jong, Arthur Melo, João Neves, Ndombele, right? That's your, and Pjanic. Okay, that's your top 10 in terms of just central midfielders. I'm not sure that doesn't include defensive midfielders, so there might be one or two in there, like Chouameni, for example, that might break up that list. But when we're just going with midfielders, central midfielders, eights, I guess, that's your top 10. And for him to slot in, around 6th, it makes sense given the players that he's below and how much better he is than them. He's better than Elliot Anderson, who is much cheaper. He's better than Enzo Fernandez. He's not better than Rice. Pogba, debatable. I'd say Pogba is better at his peak. Matheus Fernandes, he's better than, right? So he's for the price that we've paid, and you compare it to the midfielders I've got in the market, Tonali, he's better than Tonali, right? For example, it's a good deal. It's a for seeing what other teams have paid for their midfielders, it makes sense. I think the only thing that makes me feel a little bit iffy, and the only thing that I would say, I guess, puts a little, I guess, a little negative feeling to it is that now I think he goes as the most expensive midfielder that is 28 plus. So in terms of 28 plus midfielders, he's the most expensive one now. And I think that's probably why the transfer fee went so low and why he's more expensive than Tonali and Mateus Fernandez, for example, or why he's cheaper than them, sorry, is because of that age and that, he can give us 4 or 5 top years, which is why I wanted him. But I think that fee went down from, 100 million plus to a 75 because of his age. He's 28, turning 29. And so realistically, that brings down his value a lot, that there is no salvage value most likely at the end of it. Maybe 20 million tops, right? So that's probably the only negative I have, is that he is older. So, that fee, that 75 million, is high given his age, especially because you think about it, he's the most expensive midfielder above 28 or 28 and above ever. And so obviously that is something that makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. And I think he probably goes into the top 5 transfers for players above 28 ever as well. I'm not sure about that, but probably. So that also makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable, but it doesn't matter, because I think with this inflated market, you were going to pay 60 to 70 anyway. So paying 75, even add-ons to 80, you're okay, 5 to 10 million pound overpay. Is that really that big of a deal? Not really, given record revenues, given the player that you're bringing in, given, the impact on a potential dynasty that this player might have. So all in all, amazing signing for the price, amazing signing for the team, amazing signing because it pushes us to a new level. And obviously there's one that we've been waiting for, and we're greedy. We want that one more player. We know which other Brazilian I'm talking about, but don't sleep on this Bruno G deal, because I've talked about it before. Bruno G is at the top echelon of midfielders. The top echelon of midfielders. I think he has improved it at that level to the level that he needs to, because he hasn't played for a big team yet. So obviously when he does do that, that's like a different level of pressure, that's a different level of eyes on you. But we've seen him in the Champions League ball out, we've seen him in the World Cup ball out, and we've seen him in the Premier League ball out. Now it's just go to a club, come to Arsenal and prove it at the next level. Go and win titles with us. Go and prove that, that's the type of player you can be. And boom, I think he would certified be a world-class midfielder, I think. I think the only other thing I'd want to touch on with this signing is obviously Norgard leaving. I guess there's 2 more things to touch up on. Norgard leaving. Thank you. You leave a Premier League winner. Unfortunately, you didn't play as many minutes as we would have liked. You would have liked, but it is what it is. You get a good move to Newcastle or to Everton, sorry, and 1 in 1 out policy as usual. And finally, the one thing I don't like about the player is his nastiness, I guess. I think, I've seen other people talk about it, and I feel the same sentiment where, previously when we played against him, or, even when you watch him against some clubs, he does sometimes cross the line between dark arts and just dirty. And I think that is something he needs to remove from his game, because, and I think I saw James talking about it on the Gooniverse, is, at a bigger club where there's more eyes on you, you're not going to get away with that level of nastiness. We obviously, all the memes coming about him and Jorginho now. Jorginho, what is he doing? Obviously, Arsenal fans, you know how they are. But, if Bruno does get into that type of interaction at Arsenal with another player, he's getting sent off. And, he has, tendencies to have some nasty tackles at times. And he will get a yellow, he will get a red if he does that at Arsenal. So I think that's the one thing he might need to modify in his game. But besides that, this is an elite player. And I think it helps us go to the start of the season without Declan Rice. I assume the start of the season, maybe first half of the season, he'll only really play the big games. And they will probably just ease him in, and that's good. First of all, that's what he needs. That's what we need. But secondly, Bruno G being in there gives you a sense of security because if you play Bruno G and Zubimendi, I have a feeling that could work. Bruno G and Lewis Skelly, I have a feeling that could work. Bruno G or Lewis Skelly and Zubimendi, I don't like that as much. Bruno G just gives me that security in terms of technically, but in terms of mentally, and in terms of physically in this league, to where I can feel a little bit more comfortable without Rice. I think Tonali would have been a better like for like. In terms of Tonali has a better engine than Bruno G and a closer engine to Rice, but Bruno G gives you that factor that, if Rice isn't playing, you can feel more comfortable. And I'm sure Arteta will feel much more comfortable having three midfielders that are elite at the minimum. Zubimendi is elite, probably a level below Bruno Guimaraes, but elite. I think Bruno G is elite peering into world class, and then Declan Rice for me is world class. So let's see what happens. Deal should get wrapped up in the next few days. Hopefully we have a formal announcement soon, and I'll be back if there's Vinny news. Hopefully, honestly, I kind of want Vinny news to come out tomorrow so that I can separate it. But listen, if two have to come out in the same day, two have to come out in the same day. Worst case, it'll come out tomorrow morning. Take care.